Hi, my name's Lauren Sapala, and today I'm talking about INFJ writers, INFP writers, and depression. This is a topic that is really hard for a lot of people. A lot of people have experienced depression themselves. A lot of people are still going through it. There's a lot of information out there online about what you should or what you shouldn't do. I'm going to talk about depression today in the context of writing and the creative cycle of an INFJ or INFP writer. Now, something that's very normal for intuitive writers, and when I say intuitive, I mean INFJ or INFP personality types who are writers, is to finish a long work, like a novel, a collection of essays, a memoir, and at the end of it feel very depressed, to feel very empty, sort of like sad to say goodbye to the characters, or really aimless, purposeless, like they don't know what to do now, they're sort of at loose ends. And this manifests as a deep feeling of depression, like their goal is gone, they don't really know what the next thing is going to be, and then on top of that there's this sorrow, there's this really deep sorrow. Now this can be really, really confusing for INFJ and INFP writers, because most of the time we think, you know, I finished my book, I've been working on this thing for 3 or 4 years, or even if it's a short story, I've been working on it for a few weeks. I should feel excited, I should feel happy and euphoric, and I should want to just shout it from the rooftops, you know, that my book is done and I finally finished it, I crossed the finish line. But instead I feel this weird feeling of depression. So first of all, this is very, very normal. When you come to the close of a large work, you will feel depressed. I liken it to like postpartum. When you are carrying a baby, it's very intense, and then when you go through the labor of having that baby, it's also very intense. Your body's doing a bunch of stuff, your mind is doing a bunch of stuff, you're trying to adapt to changing circumstances very quickly. And it's sort of like the end of this long journey has come and you're onto this new phase and you need to transition. We don't pay enough attention to those transitions in our culture, in my opinion. We tend to really want to gloss over them and get on to the next stage where we're happy again and things are great. But transition periods are necessary, and transition periods take time. And what happens is the grieving process comes in to help us through those transition periods. You know, so when someone dies in your life, you know, someone you're very close to passes away, you live in one reality where they're part of that reality, and then you very suddenly go to this new reality where they are not part of that reality. And that transition takes some getting used to. That's where a lot of the pain of missing someone comes from. Like, oh, they used to be here and I could talk to them every day. Now they're not here and I can't talk to them every day. This is new and different. And your brain actually takes some time to sort of adapt and rewire itself and get used to this new reality. It's the same thing with a novel or a memoir that you've been working on for a long period of time. You've been working on it continuously. Part of you has really come to identify with the project. You know, like, that's what makes me a writer. I'm working on my novel. I'm working on my memoir. You've probably gone to classes around it or retreats or told a lot of people you're writing, and a lot of people know this is a big thing in your life. So when you come to the end of it, it really is the end of an era. It's okay to grieve, and in fact, we need that grieving process in place before we can move on to editing. The problem comes in because in our culture, we really don't know how to handle depression. INFJ and INFP people also tend to have an emotional pendulum, I say, that swings very wide. So we can go into very intense joy and just as intense despair, you know, within the same day. And we kind of need to do that. We are highly creative beings, so we need to explore all of the emotional territory. However, when we go into our dark periods, or when we go into those places of intense sadness, or maybe depression, or even anxiety, the people around us don't want us to be there. It's very uncomfortable for them. Other people who are not INFJ or INFP personality types, it's not as easy for them to go deep into emotional stuff. It's not easy for them to be uncomfortable when difficult emotions arise. They just really want to tend to fix the problem. So you'll see a lot of INFJ and INFP people who have grown up with their parents or their siblings telling them you're too sensitive, or, you know, you just need to get over this depression, or, you know, the second they're sad or upset in some way, someone sort of comes in and tries to push them out of it. Like, you can't be that way, it's making me uncomfortable, I'm gonna kind of push you out of it. And another thing is that people tend to react to other people's depression quite strongly. So, I have one client and she says that when I go through my periods of depression, I don't want to tell anybody else, because if I tell someone I'm depressed, then they're going to have a whole thing about it. And I'm not really in a place where I can then manage their whole thing that they're having about it. I'm already having a thing. I don't need their thing on top of my thing, which really made sense to me. I love the way she put that. But I think that's a very real truth for a lot of INFJ and INFP writers. So when we come to the end of this project, we are depressed. We might even feel anxious. Like, is there ever going to be another book in me again? Was that the last one? Even if that was only our first book, was that the last one? Am I ever going to have another idea or connect with another character as deeply? The answer is yes. But we do need to be in the time period of feeling empty, feeling sad, saying goodbye, as long as we need to be there. That is part of the creative process. There's nothing wrong with you. So if you can accept that part of your creative cycle, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. You're going to have good months and bad months. You're going to have seasons where you're in full bloom and you're writing all the time and it feels great. And you're also going to have seasons where you're not writing very much at all. Maybe you're not writing at all. And that's okay too. It's sort of like the winter time of your writing life, where you're resting, you're sort of grieving the last project, and you're waiting for the new seed to come in. So you're very normal, INFJs and INFPs. There's nothing wrong with you. If you want to get dark, go as dark as you can. One last thing, as I'm talking about all this, of course, this is periodic depression that is linked to like the close of a project. If you're depressed for like a year on end and you're like, you know what, I'm really thinking about killing myself, that's different. That's a different kind of depression. And of course, seek support and help if you have that. But most INFJs and INFPs, when they get that creative depression, that's not what they're talking about. And that's also part of the big reaction others have, because in our culture, we have this fear of like, well, if you're depressed, it might mean you're suicidal, and then what do you do? And, somebody needs to control that and help you, and all that stuff is great that we're trying to raise awareness about that, but it kind of, it can be difficult when you are just suffering from the normal creative depression that comes with the creative cycle, and you're trying to explain that to someone else who's having a big fear reaction about you even saying the word depressed, to clarify. I hope that helps all of you in your creative work. If you have any questions, I have a contact form on my website. You can also leave questions in the comments below. As always, I get so many comments from people who say, I felt so alone for so many years. These videos are so helpful. So if you have a story to share about, anything that really resonated with you, similar experiences you've gone through, please leave the story in the comments below. I would love to read them, and I know other INFJs and INFPs would too. And also, last thing, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you will get this free book, Firefly Magic, Heart-Powered Marketing for Highly Sensitive Writers. You do not need to have a published book for this to be helpful for you. You do not even need to be interested in self-promotion at all for this to be helpful for you. This is about stepping out into the world. This is about getting comfortable with your money issues, getting comfortable with feeling exposed and not trying to stay invisible in the world any longer, which is such a safety mechanism for a lot of INFJ and INFP people. So please go to my website. You can click on newsletter on the newsletter tab and it'll take you right there. It's also below in the links. You can just click on that link, and it's free, it's easy, it's super quick. Until next time, I'll see all you writers out there later.